An emotional night as the community remembers the life of Aaron Lowe, the University of Utah football player who was killed last weekend.
I'm truly grateful to have had the privilege to coach you.
He loved each and every one of y'all in here.
The message tonight about each of us living our lives just a little better.
Preparing to welcome hundreds of Afghan refugees here to Utah. But what will it take? Now at 9, what they really need and an easy way you can step up to help.
Get ready for a chilly start tomorrow as we're starting to see some clearing across northern Utah. I'm tracking the timing of a warm-up and when we're going to see our next chance for rain.
Plus, a Moab police officer is no longer with the department. His profane parting that makes this such a strange story.
The future of Bridalveil Falls continues to be a hot topic. What some Utah County residents say should be done here.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
New tonight, we're hearing from players and coaches of Aaron Lowe, the University of Utah football player who was shot and killed over the weekend.
Fox 13's Brian Schnee is live on campus with the emotional words shared at tonight's vigil. Brian.
Bob and Kelly, good evening, and indeed an emotional evening here for students, staff, community members, all coming out here to the University of Utah campus behind the Student Union tonight to remember the life of Utah football player and student athlete Aaron Lowe. The big message here shared tonight, everyone who spoke wanted to encourage everyone in the crowd tonight to get 22% better. 22, of course, the number that Aaron Lowe wore and took over wearing after the sudden death of his very good friend Ty Jordan, the same number he wore on his back as recent as this past weekend when he took the field. Tonight, teammates shared memories and feelings about the loss of Aaron Lowe early Sunday morning, and his coach reminded the group gathered here tonight that life is fragile. Kyle Whittingham called the loss of Aaron Lowe tragic and seemingly senseless.
Aaron, I know you can hear us, and I want to say collectively that we love you. I'm truly grateful to have had the privilege to coach you. I'll always keep you in my mind and my heart forever. And I'm very confident, Aaron, that we will meet again and we will see you again.
Man, I loved Aaron. Still love him. He loved each and every one of y'all in here. That dude was the hardest worker, most compassionate, loving person that I ever knew.
To the community, thank you for the messages and the outpouring. It's been noted, and frankly, it's been needed.
An emotional and somber evening tonight here on the campus of the University of Utah. Athletic Director Mark Harlan, who you just heard from right there, says he spent a lot of time with Lowe's family this past week, including his mother, and they emphasized how this was a dream for him to come play football and study here at the U. Harlan, along with other university staff, encourage athletes to come together and recognize if someone really needs help. But the big message here tonight, getting 22% better, that number with so much significance, with so much heartbreak for this youth football program over the past 2 years. Members of the Salt Lake City Police Department were also in attendance tonight. We did reach out to that department earlier this evening to see if there was any movement on this homicide investigation. They say while they do have leads, they have no information on any suspect or suspects at this time. So that's why they still really want to hear from you. If you have any information to provide, maybe you were at that party that night. If so, please give them a call. Live in Salt Lake City this evening, Brian Schnee, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Emotional there, Brian. Thank you. A massive gravel spill closed I-15 in Salt Lake City for nearly an hour today, causing massive delays, actually a couple hours. Take a look at the mess from our Skyfox drone. Crews worked very quickly trying to tackle the far left lanes first so they could reopen the highway and start allowing some traffic through.
So what we understand happened, it was a double belly truck. It was carrying some red road base, and there was some sort of malfunction with the truck. Anyway, it dropped its entire load, and it affected all lanes of traffic. Anytime you close I-15, that's a huge challenge. But our crews were just tasked with getting it open as quick as possible.
From the time the truck spilled its load to the time traffic was able to flow freely once again was about 2.5 hours.
The hunt for Gabby Petito's boyfriend, Brian Laundrie, has intensified, but the search of a nature preserve near his family's home in Florida has come up empty. Attention is now turning to Fort DeSoto Park. That's west of Tampa. Park records show Brian's mother reserved a campsite there in early September, but the family's attorney says Brian and his parents left the campsite together. The FBI is now investigating surveillance video from the area. Meantime, Wyoming authorities say the search for Gabby Petito helped them find another missing person, a Houston man who disappeared in Teton County.
We need positive stuff to come from the tragedy that happened. All right? We can't let her name be taken in vain.
Gabby's family hopes its new charitable foundation in her name will help other families find missing loved ones.
The first wave of Afghan refugees could be arriving in Utah next week, and organizations right now are busy gathering donations and other items needed to welcome them to their new home.
Fox 13's Lauren Steinbrecher is live at the Utah Refugee Center tonight to explain how the community can help welcome their new neighbors. Lauren.
Yeah, Bob and Kelly, so we now have a better idea of some of those exact items, those household items that people will need upon arriving here as early as next week, while places like the Utah Refugee Center work on things like job training and leadership training, all to make that transition as seamless as possible.
Everyone here is learning how to lead.
People check their phone 80 times a day.
How to engage with others around them, no matter where they're from, be it Sudan or Somalia.
The refugees, they don't have experience about public speaking.
The Utah Refugee Center helps build skills for success.
That's why you got to grab their attention.
While also building community.
One of the great things that happens is I think they talk about challenges and issues in their community and learn that, you know, many of these communities have very similar challenges. So they become resources for each other through that process.
The center is about to get a whole lot busier with those conversations by exactly 765 Afghan refugees.
We're hopeful that they don't all arrive at once. And we anticipate that they will start arriving in the next week or so.
State Refugee Services Director Asha Parekh says this will create a challenge, so they're coordinating with partners to gather resources and expertise. For example, Wednesday, Catholic Community Services of Utah released an Amazon wish list for arriving individuals and families, listing items like car seats, microwaves, pots and pans, rice cookers, bedding, towels, cleaning supplies, and diapers. The Utah Refugee Center will be offering their classes and trainings once the new group is settled in, all part of building success and support for the hundreds about to call Utah home.
Just being very grateful for the generosity of people in Utah and appreciative that they're willing to reach out and want to help refugees and especially this group.
All right, so we've got this Amazon wish list. We are posting it on our website, fox13now.com, if you'd like to help out. In the meantime, Parekh says that the state is looking at how to set up one easy way for people to donate that helps all the organizations. She hopes to release more information about that in the coming weeks. Live in Salt Lake City, Lauren Steinbrecher, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Oh, it feels like fall today, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Chill is in the air. Oh my gosh, snow in the highest of elevations. Hi, Allison.
Yes, a gorgeous view on our Alta Albion Basin web camera tonight. I'll step out of your way so you can see this whole screen where it's just a stunning evening up there. You can see some of that fresh snow. Some stars are starting to come out with less cloud cover here across the state. We do still have a little bit of light precipitation along I-80 as you approach Evanston, but overall what you can expect tonight here across the state is a lot of clearing and the chance still for a few showers into southeastern Utah. But overall, breezy conditions in southwestern Utah right now. Our wind in St. George is howling at about 30 miles per hour. But when you first wake up tomorrow morning, take a look at your screen. 7 a.m. mid-20s for Park City, close to freezing for Evanston and Logan, and in the low 40s for Ogden, Salt Lake, and Provo. Because of the clearing tonight, we're really going to cool off tomorrow morning. So coming up, I'll let you know if we still have the chance for some rain and snow across parts of Utah tomorrow and what you can expect beyond our 7-day forecast.
Coming up on Fox 13 News at 9.
A Moab police officer is off the job, but not before making some condemning remarks about his superiors. What we're learning about the incident in a Fox 13 News exclusive.
The goats on these mountains may look natural, but an environmentalist group showed us how they're damaging the ecosystem.
Mountain goats, they eat the vegetation in these alpine areas of the La Salle Mountains. They also dig the plants and then they dig into the soil.
Fox 13 News investigates the efforts underway to prevent permanent damage to this fragile habitat.
It's been a target for development for years in Utah County. Now local leaders are working to protect Bridal Veil Falls. We'll show you how.
It's the end of an era for the Miller family in Utah. What's next for them after selling all of their car dealerships?
Tonight, in a Fox 13 News exclusive, an officer with the Moab Police Department is no longer employed tonight after using profanity to publicly insult the assistant chief on his police radio.
Fox 13 News investigative reporter Adam Herbetz has the audio and the story you will only see here.
Well, Bob Kelly, obviously we have to bleep the word this officer used to describe his assistant chief, but take a listen as Officer Everett Gist publicly signed off yesterday from his police radio.
It was nice working with you guys, but Braden and the rest of them, but suckers.
The city of Moab will not say whether Officer Gist resigned or was fired, but what you're looking at here is an old photo of him back when he finished his training with the Utah Department of Corrections. That's where he worked before getting hired on by Moab PD. Obviously, it has been a difficult few weeks for the police department. The chief is on a leave of absence as the department deals with questions over its handling of the Gabby Petito case and other cases involving the use of body cameras. Today, I was able to speak to the assistant chief on the phone. He said being called that word on the radio was shocking, but other than that, he declined to comment. He also said this case has nothing to do with the Petito investigation or any other ongoing case. Right now, we are working on trying to get more information on what led up to all of this. We have filed a request with the city for his personnel file, but law enforcement professionals say regardless of what the conflict was, there is no excuse for behavior like this.
To do something intentional in that way and to use vulgarity in that way intentionally disrespects the profession, in my opinion.
We have also made several attempts to get a hold of Officer Gist to see if he's interested in explaining what happened. So far, we have not been able to get him on the phone. Reporting in the newsroom tonight, Adam Herbetz, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Murray police are investigating a deadly shooting. They say a man in his 20s was shot outside the front door of his home shortly before 2 this morning and died at the hospital. The suspect is still at large. Police don't know what or who that suspect is, but they believe it's someone who knew the victim. If you have any information that can help investigators, call Murray Police.
2 state representatives now part of a national call for election audits. Utah's Steve Christiansen and Phil Lyman are among 41 legislators all across the country who are part of an election integrity caucus. It was formed by an Arizona state senator who pushed for an audit of the 2020 elections within that state. Representative Lyman says one of the main drivers of this caucus is to push for more secure elections every year.
We make sure that our elections have some integrity. So you put some audit protocols in place every election that the clerks would do. Nothing extravagant or over the top. Just some things you would say, we're going to check these things, and instead of right now where it's basically we don't check those things.
Lyman says if any legislation moves forward on this, it would be up to each state on how they handle auditing each election. Lyman was pardoned by President Donald Trump in December of 2020 after being convicted of misdemeanor trespass for leading a protest ride in Recapture Canyon back in 2014.
The future of Bridal Veil Falls is being discussed again. Right now, the Utah State Parks Office is collecting public input to learn what you want to see at the iconic site.
Fox 13's John Franke reports from Utah County, where those who love the space are weighing in on plans for the landmark.
I'm at my husband's Bridal Falls, right on top.
Cherished memories compelled Utah County resident Lisa Shepard to spend part of her Wednesday evening at an open house looking at what may become of Bridal Veil Falls.
That's asking what's going to deter us from going there. And, you know, they have these boards all around.
Each board presented different questions, including one that asked people to choose their favorite of 4 options. Turn the area into a state park, a state monument, a state recreation area, or keep it as is.
Should there be more trails? Should there be more open space? Should there be, less access? And it should be preserved, and people can look at it from afar.
Kathy Whedon is with the firm collecting public input.
Now we're kind of doing this kind of forward thinking. What does the future look like?
This study was commissioned by the state legislature for an area that means so much to so many.
I call myself an accidental activist.
Kay Nelson is a member of Conserve Utah Valley, an organization that came together to fight a potential development at the falls.
It's such an iconic treasure.
A vote by the Utah County Commission last December created a conservation easement, putting an end to any talks of commercial or private development at the falls.
People need to know that it's not just, the battle wasn't just won and it's over with. It's what's the next step for Bridal Veil Falls.
Now those who come here often or just pass by will help answer that question, an answer that could impact generations to come.
I just really want to make sure that the natural beauty is preserved throughout the years.
If you missed this session about the future of Bridal Veil Falls, you can give your input through this online survey. We'll post the link on our website. In Utah County, John Franke, Fox 13 News, Utah.
My goodness, regardless of what's going on at Bridal Veil Falls, it's beautiful there. Just beautiful.
I bet, with the colors surrounding the falls.
I'll tell you what, really anywhere that you are in northern Utah right now, you can either look up towards the mountains and you can see those leaves turning. You can look around your neighborhood, lots of those trees are turning. The fall colors are spectacular right now. We have a little bit of haze out there, but it's really not too bad. Our smoke analysis here across the state does show light smoke here in Utah, but it's a little bit worse into Arizona, so we can appreciate what we have here today. We do have light smoke that is creeping up towards Point of the Mountain to the east side of the Salt Lake Valley, but overall a really pleasant evening. On the cooler side, 54 degrees here in Salt Lake City with light wind out of the west right now. So here's what I'm dealing with right now, or what we're dealing with, because we're all in this together as far as the weather goes. I-80, Colville up towards Evanston. We're seeing a little bit of light rain right now, so it could be a little slick out there. Just maybe make sure you're paying extra attention as you're on the roads. But across southern Utah, we have quite a few clouds, mostly Capitol Reef down towards the Four Corners region. And then over towards Canyonlands, Blanding, up towards Moab, so Monticello area, over towards Dove Creek. That's where we're seeing some spotty light rain this evening, but nothing that should really cause any big problems. Now our temperatures are on the cooler side. It's about 55 for Ogden, Salt Lake, and mid 40s for Logan. And then our temperatures tomorrow morning here in Salt Lake City, it'll be chilly. It'll be about 40 degrees when you first wake up, and by 10 a.m. into the 50s. So we do have some comfortable temperatures for you tomorrow afternoon, and then especially heading into this upcoming weekend, we have some really nice weather ahead. But let's talk about tomorrow morning, because it's going to be a cold start to your day. Top of your screen, you can see the timestamp, 7 a.m. Temperatures in the mid-20s for Park City. Logan, you're around freezing. Low 40s for Ogden, Salt Lake, Provo, upper 30s. So it will be a cool start tomorrow. 20s for Elko. We're going to end up with temperatures tomorrow afternoon about 65 degrees for Provo, Salt Lake, and Ogden. So we're going to have clear sky here across the state. Still the chance for a few showers into southeastern Utah, but this storm is going to be mostly impacting Colorado come tomorrow. So futurecast through Thursday afternoon, we still see the chance for some spotty showers and thunderstorms in southeastern Utah. Blanding, and then up towards Monticello, LaSalle's, we'll end up with the possibility of some thunderstorms moving through. We're going to keep this chance around through Friday morning for southeastern Utah, but the rest of Utah looks really nice. For St. George, 81 degrees, quite gusty this evening. That wind is about 30 miles per hour. Do expect it to be windy throughout the evening along I-15 in southwestern Utah, mostly 35 to 45 miles per hour, but then that should die down tomorrow morning. You're close to 90 degrees by next Monday. Here in Salt Lake, we're warming up. So we have upper 60s tomorrow, so that's warmer than it was today, into the 70s Friday, into the rest of your 7-day forecast. And coming up later in the hour, let's go ahead and take a look at our precipitation for week 2. So days 8 to 14, I'll have your precipitation outlook coming up.
Thank you, Allison. Hey, do you know Utah's move over law? There is such a thing. About a quarter of Utah drivers just don't get it. We'll explain what it is and why it's so important.
When you're on the freeway and you see a UHP trooper or a tow truck on the side of the road, do you change lanes to give them room? If you do, you're in the vast minority. New research indicates that 25% of drivers don't know it's the law.
We've had several officers over the last little bit that have been hit, and so it's a message that we've been wanting to push for quite some time.
Utah drivers can be fined anywhere between $250 or more if they're caught breaking the law. They also could possibly have to take a driving course, and they also run the risk of potentially losing their license for up to 90 days by breaking the law.
So far this year, 14 tow truck drivers around the country have been hit and killed on the job.
The Western Governors Association met today for a Working Lands, Working Communities discussion. Idaho Governor Brad Little and Utah Governor Spencer Cox discussed state and federal land resource management. Now, the two governors hope to develop bipartisan strategies to support the management of lands, mitigate wildfire, and also restore ecosystems.
We have a tremendous opportunity, I think, right now, maybe for the first time in a long time, where we have some solutions, and Utah is pioneering those solutions that can help with lots of different things. We can help with wildfire. Can help with drought. It can help with climate change. And we're starting to see that the way we've been managing our lands for the past 50 years hasn't helped.
Today was the first in a 4-series event, with others taking place in Alaska, Colorado, and Idaho.
Coming up after the break.
The State Division of Wildlife Resources wants that population to grow to 200. We believe that a non-native species like mountain goats should not be here. I'm Nate Carlisle in the LaSalle Mountains near Moab. 8 years ago, the state of Utah introduced goats in these mountains, trying to do some good. Now environmentalists want them gone.
Now that the Larry H. Miller family is selling all of their car dealership, what's next? Where could the money be going?
Our sales plan tonight, plus we'll get ready for the battle for the old wagon wheel between BYU and Utah State.
Of the many animals that live at high elevations here in Utah, perhaps none are more majestic than mountain goats. Over the past 30 years, the state has worked hard to restore the mountain goat population.
But now they're relocating them to places they probably never roamed before. And the result, some people say, is trouble for the environment. Here's Fox 13 News investigative reporter Nate Carlisle.
Oh, the mountain goats are moving across this talus slope from this lower ridge up to Mount Peel. Yeah, I see them. They're on the ridge, about to go over. Here's a video a lot like we were seeing from a distance that day. We made it up to 11,000 feet and never got close to the mountain goats. But Tosh Black got to see them with his own eyes.
So we were making our way up beautiful Mount Peel and kind of looked over kind of in the basin, actually behind right over here. And we saw about, I'm going to say about 7 to 12 of them. I kind of anticipated to see the goats, but it was always a neat surprise to see them.
The LaSalles are the mountains Moab's visitors see when they look to the east. These mountains have plants found nowhere else in the world, and people like Mark Coles-Ritchie say the goats are a threat to the mountain's ecosystem.
The mountain goats are not native to this landscape.
Mark Coles-Ritchie is the Utah Public Lands Manager for the nonprofit group Grand Canyon Trust.
Mountain goats, they eat the vegetation in these alpine areas of the LaSalle Mountains. They dig up the plants and then they dig into the soil, creating places where they can lay. The plants that we're particularly concerned about The foremost is the LaSalle daisy, which is endemic to the LaSalle Mountains. It grows nowhere else in the world.
Bighorn sheep were spotted in the LaSalles as recently as 1954. But since the wild sheep are susceptible to disease, the state looked for a similar animal.
We succeeded in capturing 21 goats, both billies and nannies.
In 2013, the State Division of Wildlife Resources captured mountain goats in the high elevations of southwest Utah,
moving those to the LaSalle Mountains
to start a breeding population.
Our most recent population estimate is somewhere between 85 and 100.
The State Division of Wildlife Resources wants that population to grow to 200. We believe that a non-native species like mountain goats should not be here.
Riley Peck is the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources coordinator over what's called the once-in-a-lifetime species. That's a reference to how hard it is to win a permit to hunt the mountain goats. Peck says hunting fees have brought little revenue to the state and are not the reason the big game was introduced into the LaSalles.
Mountain goats are one of those species that bring intrinsic value to an area. People like looking at them.
The mountain goat range in the LaSalles sits on a national forest and a designated research area. In 2016, the Grand Canyon Trust was among the plaintiffs who sought to remove the goats by suing the U.S. Forest Service. They felt the agency was not managing the habitat.
We think the Forest Service does have the authority to decide that mountain goats should not be here.
A federal judge dismissed the lawsuit because a joint study between the Forest Service and the state to determine how the goats were impacting native plants hadn't been finished yet. Now, according to the Forest Service and Peck, most of that study is complete, although the results have not yet been published.
Some of those early results show that under certain circumstances in certain areas, mountain goats may have an impact on some of these plants. That study has given us some confidence, and we believe that there are not any long-term negative impacts of having goats on the mountain.
Meanwhile, the state is considering introducing mountain goats into a new spot in northern Utah, depending on what sensitive plants they find in Logan Canyon.
This is not a decision that has been made yet.
Absolutely, I love the goats.
Back in the LaSalles, nature lovers like Black feel the conflict.
Have a great day. We definitely want to protect this very fragile habitat because it is very fragile up here. So it does concern me a little bit about the goats. They're awesome to see, but at the same time, we want to definitely protect our fragile, ecosystem up here.
In the LaSalle Mountains, Nate Carlisle, Fox 13 News, Utah.
It is a monumental deal that will shake up the future of the Larry H. Miller Group of companies. The Miller family has sold all of their car dealerships and collision centers to a new owner based in Atlanta, Georgia for $3.2 billion. Fox 13 News spoke with Derek Miller, president and CEO of the Salt Lake Chamber, no relation to the Miller family who sold their dealerships. We talked to him about the economic impact of the deal, and while he says customers may not notice a change, employees might.
You've got, thousands of employees that work for this, and change is hard and anything new is difficult, and so that'll be a period of transition for all of those employees, even though it's the same name on the sign out front. I'm sure there'll be some changes internally.
The sale comes less than a year after the Miller family sold the Utah Jazz to Qualtrics founder Ryan Smith.
So what's next for the Miller family as they back away from the company that made them billions of dollars?
Fox 13's Haley Higgins looks at their legacy and where it may be headed.
In 42 years, one car lot turned into a family empire. 61 new and used car dealerships and 5,300 employees.
The Miller family is an extraordinary family because Larry and Gail built it from the ground up.
The Larry H. Miller Company also includes 17 movie theaters. And of course, the Millers were the former owners of the Utah Jazz.
What they've done economically for our local community here, and also what they did, even when you look at when they took on buying the Jazz in a permanent way, and the risk that Larry took to make that happen.
Besides the massive economic impact to the state, the Miller family also donated generously to Utah.
The Miller legacy goes far more than just what they give in dollars, because they're far more than just writing checks. They care deeply about this community.
Families' foundations have provided substantial donations to healthcare, homeless, and educational organizations. They've also given 4,500 college students scholarships. According to the latest information available, the Miller Family Foundation gave $4 million in 2019. Gail Miller says selling off the car dealerships will allow the family's numerous foundations to continue with their philanthropic work.
They're clearly one of the most successful business families in the state. But they've not only done well, they've done good, and they've given back.
In Salt Lake City, Haley Higgins, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Still ahead, as more electric vehicles become common in Utah and across the country, Rocky Mountain Power is making a big move to make them easier to own and drive. We'll explain. Electric vehicles are becoming more common in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, I notice them all the time. Fox 13's Eliana Sheriff looks at the challenges as more people adopt the technology and how Rocky Mountain Power is trying to help.
I definitely think there could be a lot more.
More chargers like this one. Bonus points if they're extreme fast chargers. That's what North Salt Lake City resident Benjamin Jacob says we need for more people to choose electric.
I think the biggest challenge with owning an electric vehicle is the range.
So range anxiety is a real thing.
Yeah.
With more locations to charge, users will feel less of that range anxiety. That's why Rocky Mountain Power will invest $50 million in electric vehicle charging infrastructure for Utahns across the state. In 2016, only about 2,000 cars in our state were EVs. In 2020, that number climbed to about 14,000 and is still growing. James Campbell, the Director of Innovation and Sustainability for Rocky Mountain Power, says surveys show the two biggest barriers to adopting EV are cost of the vehicle and infrastructure. Their goal, provide fast chargers across the state so drivers feel confident they can get anywhere they need to go.
What we're seeing right now on the cost side is the EV prices are starting to come down. You're seeing advances in battery technologies. So really the biggest barrier is going to be, do we have enough charging infrastructure to be able to support all that?
Rocky Mountain Power plans to install 100 of these extreme fast chargers at about 20 to 25 locations throughout the state. And electricity is much cheaper than gas at about $1 equivalent per gallon. Most of these new locations will be along the Wasatch Front, with the rest in rural areas. Benjamin hopes more Utahns give electric cars the green light.
As we move to greener electricity, then we have, fully green transportation.
Reporting in Salt Lake City, Eliana Sheriff, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Rocky Mountain Power plans to start construction on these new fast chargers next year after they get approval from the Public Service Commission.
In the middle of a mega drought, the state releases the first draft of a 50-year water plan. What it might change in your life.
What makes a great NBA training camp? Mike Conley will tell us coming up in sports. And RSL played tonight against the LA Galaxy. And what a goal to finish this off for RSL. The highlights are on the way.
So glad you could be with us tonight for Fox 13 News at 9 on another chilly night. Last night, as those temperatures dropped, we saw rain, even snow in areas. Probably not any snow where you live. It was just on the very top mountain peaks.
Right.
Sure is pretty today, isn't it?
Yeah, and our live shot reporters are in jackets out there tonight.
It is cold once again. Yeah. How long will these cold temperatures hang around? Meteorologist Allison Krogan will tell us coming up in just a few minutes. In the meantime, tonight, the time crunch in Washington, D.C. continues as lawmakers negotiate two major pieces of legislation.
Two Democratic senators are still not supportive of a $3.5 trillion social spending package. There is also growing concern about how the country will be able to pay its debts and avoid a financial crisis. The bill does not address the national debt ceiling, and Republicans say they will not raise the debt ceiling because they want Democrats to cap their spending.
This is their choice. They're the ones that are spending extraordinary amounts of money. They should raise the debt ceiling and get it done.
The size of the reconciliation package could change because of moderate Democrat senators not fully supportive of the current price tag. Some lawmakers are hoping for more direction from President Biden as the deadline inches closer.
Utah Senator Mike Lee is spending his days on the Senate floor this week pushing for vaccine exemptions. Senator Lee introduced Senate Bill 2850, or the Don't Jab Me Act. It is in direct opposition to the Biden administration's approach to vaccinations. The senator feels it should be up to an individual to decide whether or not to get the vaccines.
I think the vaccine is a good thing. I also understand that there are people who feel differently. There are other people who might have religious or other sincerely held personal beliefs that might make this choice a really unfair one for the federal government to force upon them.
Lee says he will continue to push for this bill in the coming days. He also says that he and his entire family are fully vaccinated.
In the middle of a mega drought, Utah's water planners have been working hard. They're drafting a plan for long-term water use in Utah. Going in depth tonight, Fox 13's Max Roth spoke with the director of the Utah Division of Water Resources about the plan.
It's a tough year to manage water in Utah.
2021 will go down one for the books, with, in addition to worldwide pandemic and wide weather events hit hard, including high record temperatures, flooding, drought, and, as you mentioned, we experienced some of the worst water supply conditions on record.
But Division of Water Resources Director Candace Hassenjaeger is presenting a plan for the long run.
Our water supply is based off of snow-driven hydrology, where we get 95% of our water supply from our snowpack.
It's a supply gravity delivers down the mountains, no pumping required. But the supply has been bolstered by outside help.
And then we have historically benefited from the federal government helping us with large development projects, including reservoirs.
This 2016 Department of Energy report compares water rates in over 60 metro areas. Salt Lake City, 7th cheapest. So most of us aren't feeling the pain.
With, $38 billion worth of needed water infrastructure projects within the next 50 years, that the price of water is not going to stay low.
Those are things that have to be fixed and replaced over time. And higher prices may be what finally convinces Utahns to catch up to other parched populations.
We have to, use less water. We have to change the way we grow.
There is controversy here. The plan includes the Lake Powell pipeline and a Bear River project that could harm the Great Salt Lake. It also shows Utah's relatively small agricultural industry using a large majority of Utah's water. It is a draft, and you can comment before it's final. We'll show you how on fox13now.com. In the newsroom, Max Roth, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Just need more water is what we need.
We got some last night. Will we see more, Allison? It sure was fun, though, to pull out, a sweater this morning.
Yes.
A jacket and my Ugg boots.
She loves being cozy.
Yes, and fall fashion, right?
Well, you will need that tomorrow morning. It'll be chilly yet again here across the state. You probably even need it this evening. I have my jacket with me. 54 degrees here in Salt Lake City, 53 down in Provo currently, 55 in Ogden, mid-40s for Logan. So it is chilly for some parts of the state. But what we're seeing tonight, less cloud cover here over the last few hours. So we're starting to see those clouds thinning, and that does mean that we're going to see additional cooler temperatures tonight. I-80 Colville up through Evanston could be a little slick, so you'll want to keep that in mind if you're going to be traveling back and forth from Evanston tonight, and down into the Blanding area, some areas of light rain. But what you can expect tomorrow morning, certainly that Ugg boot weather, about 40 to 45 degrees here in Salt Lake City, 6 to 10 a.m. And then we're going to be into the 50s after that. So we're going to have our temperatures mid-60s to upper 60s tomorrow for a high. Plenty of sunshine, so you want to grab the sunscreen if you are going to be heading out, especially after about 9-10 a.m. And then our overnight temps for most of the state tomorrow at 7 a.m. It'll be chilly up in Park City at 25 degrees. Close to freezing for Logan and Evanston. And then if you're waking up in Utah County, Provo, Orem areas, you'll be in the upper 30s. And then for Salt Lake and Ogden, we're going to be closer to 40 to 45. But by tomorrow, second half of the day, Salt Lake 67, Ogden 70, Provo 66, Central and Southern Utah, Cedar City 66, Richfield 66, and for St. George 81 degrees. And then for Eastern Utah, 71 in Moab. We'll see the chance for maybe a few scattered thunderstorms throughout the day in Eastern Utah tomorrow, but mostly looking at partly cloudy to mostly cloudy sky. 65 tomorrow in Price, 64 in Vernal for your Thursday. We also have some additional surface smoke that we've got the potential that's coming in from Idaho into northwestern Utah, but throughout the day tomorrow, we're going to see just mostly haze here across our state, but pretty interesting to see that we're also seeing other fires from a state that is not California. So that's basically been the story of our summer, it seems like. For Futurecast through tomorrow, I am still tracking that potential for some thunderstorms even early tomorrow morning down towards Lake Powell, Mexican Hat area. As we look at tomorrow afternoon, we're going to keep this chance mostly into Colorado, but that chance to creep into eastern Utah, the chance for some rain through Blanding through Friday morning, and then throughout the state on Saturday, we could very well see a few scattered showers along the highest terrain Saturday afternoon. But rain projection for the next 48 hours, not a whole lot here across Utah. And then days 8 to 14 has Utah trending wetter than normal in the next week. So beyond our 7-day forecast, week 2. Likely we'll see more chances for rain. St. George close to 80 to 90 through much of your 7-day forecast. That chance for some rain middle of next week. And for the Wasatch Front, we are on the upper 60s tomorrow, and then the 70s return on Friday.
It was day 2 of Utah Jazz training camp. One more day to go in Las Vegas. Jazz have a nice setup at Wynn Las Vegas. 2 basketball courts set up in a huge ballroom with chandeliers. A 5-star hotel worthy of a high-quality team like the Jazz. This is Mike Conley's 15th year in the NBA, so he knows what it takes to have a great training camp.
A good training camp normally consists of you have good players, a good team. You know, that's about as straightforward as you get. You know, I feel like we have a very good opportunity here, good team, good foundation. We can kind of skip over, you know, steps 1, 2, and 3 in our training camp and go immediately to pick up where we left off in the playoffs and just continually trying to build. And that's our advantage right now is we have that kind of atmosphere around here and the kind of depth and you know, the kind of guys who can pick up on it.
Real Salt Lake played tonight at home against the LA Galaxy. RSL went on top before the half. Damir Kreilach heads it down and in. The whole ball has to cross the line, and it just did right there. Kreilach's 12th goal of the season put RSL up 1-0. The Galaxy answered back in the second half. It's Chicharito. Shoots and he scores. That tied it up at 1 in the 76th minute. But check out the game-winning goal by RSL's Anderson Julio. Sets it up and just rips it into the back of the net. What a goal. Un golazo. Put RSL up 2-1, and that's how it ended. A big win over the LA Galaxy with a world-class goal. BYU and Utah State will battle for the old wagon wheel on Friday night in Logan. You'll get a mixed reaction if you ask players from both teams how they rank this in-state rivalry. But it should be a great environment at Maverick Stadium for the first BYU road game this season.
The more hostile the environment, the better for me. That kind of just brings out a different competitive side to me, in my opinion. Especially up at Utah State, their fans like to talk a lot. Their players like to talk a lot, so it's going to be a really high-intensity game, and you know, I think it just brings out, you know, the more confidence and more of my swag that I like to put into my game.
Yeah, this one means a lot to me. I know quite a few guys on their team. I was recruited a little bit by them. You know, looking at this game with what's in front of us, you know, it's going to be a good atmosphere here in Logan. In-state rival, top 15 team. They're going to be energized. We're going to be energized. And it's going to be a fun time.
You like the swag talk, don't you, Kelly?
Both teams better be bringing their swag to the game on Friday. Friday, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Jeff, thanks.
We'll be right back.
Friday Night Lights.
Thank you, everyone, for being part of Fox 13 News at 9.
Stick around. QuickCast is next.